we trust people, right? I mean, we should, we need to. It's a foundational principle inside of us. And we assume, perhaps when we're young and naive more than now, that everyone shares that same principle. Well, what happens when the rug gets pulled out from underneath you? Mark Dorman shares his story next.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things. Now, podcasting from Spire to leaders in local communities like yours, here is Brian Leflock.
And let's get cooking. So we talk about grit, and we talk about starting businesses and running successful businesses. And one thing that I think business owners, business leaders struggle with is that they are good at one thing and maybe not everything. And it's usually the things that we're not good at that ended up catching us in the rear at times. And so you have to be expert at something. And I say that because you're about to meet an expert at something that most of us don't know anything about. And I think when you meet Mark, you'll realize that that bears a lot of responsibility. And to help businesses do what they need to do to move forward and be successful, we look to you, Mark, to get that right. And so I want everyone to meet you, Mark. Mark Dorman is the contributor or a contributor at Forbes Business Council, also the president of Legacy Business Advisors right here in Medina in Northeast Ohio. We're going to talk grit. Mark Dorman, welcome to Dash of Grit.
Good afternoon. How are you, Brian? Nice to be with you, and thank you for inviting me.
I'm really glad to have you. I am excited to share the story. You and I are talked a little bit beforehand about how things that you're not looking to, things that you're not expert in, can come around and nail you. And so let's talk first, though, about what you are expert in. You're doing some great things with Legacy Business Advisors, and tell us a little bit about what success looks like. Pat yourself on the back a little bit, Mark.
Yeah, well, I lead a team of 10 phenomenal individuals, and we are kind of a hybrid consulting, planning, financial services firm in that I myself work 95% of the time in the business space. So by that, I'm talking to corporate executives, business owners, in the succession planning, exit planning space, and then a very robust corporate retirement plan practice. My partner, Dave Kucharski, works in the individual planning space, but we work kind of hand in glove where I will get him involved in many of my business owner situations or the executives, some of the financial related issues, but I kind of stick to more business consulting in that regard. We also have Katie Bryan and two other associates, Bryce and Mike, in a team of 5 individuals. And I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is, when we kind of, as I was sharing with you, Brian, a couple of weeks ago, when we kind of relaunched, or kind of the second part of my career here, everyone who started with us is still here. So I that's one thing I'm very, very proud of. We've grown. Our business has grown not only dramatically, but I think our expertise and what we're known for, and the relationships that we've developed with both clients and vendors is something I've also always been proud of. Is just the old adage of treat people the way you'd want to be treated. That really goes. I'm 56, and that really goes a long way. Certainly as you get older, right? Because we both know that, as I share with you, you will make mistakes, and once you need someone to help you, give a hand up. It's people that they need to know that you're a good person, and those are things that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, you should be, and that doesn't happen by accident. One of the things I tell my kids of all ages, but I say, I think the definition of success is when my kids want to come home. For Christmas or for the holidays, or they want to spend vacations. I think, regardless of business, that's when I think I've done a good job. And if you've got the situation, the culture where the people you started with are still there and are still bought in and passionate about what your vision and everyone's vision, that's huge success. So congratulations. That's well done.
Yeah. Thank you. And I've taken, my role very seriously. I mean, as I said, I'm 56, but at 36, I had all the answers. At 50, I realized I didn't even know the question. So
yes, sir.
It really kind of makes you scratch your head and go, I need to do a lot more reading. I need to do a lot more listening, do a lot more, work on my softer skills, which have, they've always been good kind of, I would say, point of sale or interacting with clients and customers, but maybe not always internally as good of a listener or observer that I was. So that's something that as I lead now, I'm always soliciting input. I'm always looking for consensus. I'm always looking for, okay, look, I'll make the final decision, but it's just not my decision to make. So, not as much of a bull in the china shop as I used to be.
Well, isn't it amazing? We're both in our mid-50s. We learned that, and we either learn that or we get kicked off the train. Like we just don't know all the answers, and we seek help. But it's not always like that. And so let's talk a little bit about the some challenges and hurdles that you came across and tried to get through that caused some significant hardships, maybe just because you didn't know what you didn't know at that time. Can you share some things?
Yeah, I mean, what I mentioned with you when we were last together is, I started in this industry in college. So as I was just out of town with my wife, and there was quite a few moments when I really think I'm just sitting moment to myself, and I literally started with 0 clients, and now we work in a very space, particularly myself, with business owners, that access to business owners is hard to come by. They need someone like myself in their life that they can trust, depend on, share with, listen to, help them network, because they are, I'm thinking of one individual. I mean, he is so locked and loaded in his business that, every quarter we just grab dinner and it's just, he goes, this is the best meeting that I have. And because there's really no agenda. We just kind of goes all over the map. But what I shared with you is, given that that's the space we run in, I had started a firm in Medina and quickly brought in another individual who was extremely talented. We brought in another individual who was talented in his space. And, from there, we grew it, very, very fast under my leadership. And, new business development, we just had such good momentum in the marketplace. And these two individuals were more technicians versus business builders and, quote unquote, rainmakers, if you will. But I didn't know any other way to kind of do a throw in than say, look, we'll just we'll each own this. Even though I started this, I had kind of bought the building. I had by far the most revenue, that we would just own it mutually. And, lo and behold, the one individual, the first one I brought in, he had to move away to support his wife's mother at the time, so out of state. And that left me and another individual kind of owning the business 50-50. And, I just looking back on it, I learned such a valuable lesson because, you're in a Mexican standoff. So if there was ever a disagreement, my vote, even though I was first on the bus and was driving the bus, by his admission, when, it all kind of came to pass and, we brought in employees. And as I shared with you, there was a literally like a business coup. So we're 3, my remaining partner and 2 others that I brought in kind of lined up against me and wanted to vote me off the island, unbeknownst to me. And that just took me just a ton by surprise. I mean, just to think that I'm just not wired that way, like to plot. I would just confront you and say, I'm not happy and I'd like to move down the street. But this kind of all blew up. And that's what caused me to kind of really stand back and say, well, geez, that didn't really work too well. What did you learn from that? Right.
Yeah. And so at that time, when you're starting your company, it's going well and it's doing what you want it to do. And then that thing happens around the side, right? And it just hits you. How does that make you feel as a business owner, or as a person with the vision and the dreams? What's going through your heart at that point? How are you feeling?
Well, I mean, without question, the number one emotion is just betrayal, right? I mean, you feel like completely, wow, like an idiot. How did I see that coming? Because it really was interesting that the business itself was easy, right? Generating revenue, getting clients, paying the bills, hiring employees, all that. But what it's taught me as a business person is, if you're if you have two shareholders or three shareholders, or be very careful who you invite into that inner sanctum. If you don't have alignment in your business, it is just a matter of time before it blows up, because ultimately, that's at the end of the day, you have to be on the same page. You have to have the same goals and objectives, the same, maybe not necessarily the same exit timelines, but similar mindset of what is it going to look like? When are you going to leave, Brian? Here's what I'm thinking. And you have to have this very transparent relationship. And so to have that lack of transparency, exist not only one people, but two who, key individuals, it was just emotionally devastating for me. And, at the end of the day, I walked out with 6 people, and they're all here now, and we get along like, peanut butter and jelly. So, it was absolutely a blessing that it happened, but it was very painful when it did.
Yeah. And I'm wondering about that time. So we all know it's easy to look back, and now you've got the team and it's working great. And at the time when it was starting to fall apart, or you realized that you were in a Mexican standoff 50-50, did you try to do anything to just rectify the situation, to fix it so that it wouldn't blow up, so you wouldn't lose what you had? Looking back on it now, you're glad you did, and it's working great. But did you try to hold on at the time?
No, because if I'm honest with myself, that's a great question. If I'm honest with myself, it wasn't working for me either, right? I felt I felt I made a critical mistake by giving away equity in a business that I had started, because I was a nice, young, naive guy. You think you're never going to, everything's going to be peaches and cream. And, when it all came to pass, I had nearly a $100,000 legal bill just to save the business that I had built. But when it started to kind of unwind, I've shared with my wife for years, I should own more of this business. I should be making more money. And I'm not that kind of a selfish person, but there's always one thing I've told myself is, when I start scratching an itch in my business, chances are change is going to happen, because that's just not my nature. But when I do it, I've got to say, look, we've got to part ways, or I've got to let you go, or something like that, because things won't work. So at the time, it's kind of that fight or flight. You're just kind of working to make sure that your business, and most importantly, your family, we're going to come out on the other side of this kind of business war. Okay. But then when it's all over, just the emotions set in, and you just are like, wow, how did I let that happen? And why didn't I see that happening? I hired those guys. So it just took, it took me 2 or 3 years to just stop thinking about it every day. Right. But it's made me, like 100 times better at business, advisor to business owners, to young entrepreneurs, because when they say, well, that would never happen to me, I said, well, let me tell you my story.
Yeah.
And it does happen. Right.
I think it happens to a lot of people. And you mentioned before, young and naive, and we all are that until we learn in some way. We either got burned, or we learned, or whatever it might be. And so I'm wondering, at that time, I know I keep taking you back to the hard spot, but at that time, you're young and naive. You started the business. It was taken from you, and for lack of better words, and you've got $100,000 bill just to get back what was yours. Was there ever a moment that maybe you were talking to your wife and you said, look, let's just pack this in. I'm going to go work for the man. And there's plenty of big financial firms I can work for and not have this hassle.
No, that's really
not your thing.
No, I've never really worked. I've been self-employed since the day I got out of college. So
yeah,
I never even viewed that as an option. And, additionally, because of the unique vantage point that my business and my career has afforded me, I've seen the man screw over, really talented executives time and time again, where they put them out on the street, or a change of leadership, or change in compensation plans, bonus structures, reduced territory. I've always been one to want to control my own destiny.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? What about you? And I meet people like you all the time in this show. If you look at the past episodes, it's full of those folks that say, no, I'm not quitting. I'm working. I'm the entrepreneur in this show. What is it about you? Is it your vision to help others? Is it your vision to help yourselves? What drives you to stay in what you do?
That's a good question. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy being counted on. I enjoy being relatable, trustworthy. I mean, it just means so much to me. It's not, it's like, it's not about the money, right? I mean, if you do a good job, you treat people well, I say never. When I started out, I was, scraping nickels and dimes, but what motivates me is I just enjoy what I do. I enjoy sharing the journey with other men and women and listening to them, because it's such a lonely, difficult ride, right? So when you speak with successful business owners, like you're just asking like me. It's not all beds and roses. What's that favorite? I seen that graph that most people think it's a straight line to success.
It's overnight and it's no big deal.
But that's it in a nutshell, right? And but I have always been. I've got a knack and one of my talents, to not to pat myself on the back, but one of my unique traits is I've been able to make people feel very comfortable and open up, and they know that I don't have loose lips. I get it. I've been there, and not here to judge. And people will I use the expression with my team, like business owners will kind of drop their gloves and go, okay, this guy's not going to punch me in the nose like most people in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so, what do I enjoy now more than ever is just building very quickly accelerated, deep relationships with people, because they know that they can trust me and they know that I've got a ton of experience.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that a little bit, because I'm interested in, I can tell your passion for others and for their success. And I think you kind of bathe in that a little bit. Like, I'm glad they're successful is drives you a little bit and helps your business. I'm wondering what a bad day at Legacy Business Advisors looks like. When is it something that went wrong for you, or is it something that goes wrong for a customer, or is it something in their customer's life you have nothing to do with? What's that look like for you?
I would think that, I look back on the worst days. Look, if you're in business for 34 years, you're inevitably you're not going to satisfy everyone every day, right?
That's right.
And, having a disappointed client, not an angry client, because my clients, unfortunately, my clients would never talk to me that way, nor I would talk to my vendors or my employees that way. But, it's like when you disappointed your mom or your dad, right? I feel like when you let somebody down, you're like, man, we blew that, right? But, fortunately, I think, if you've got enough capital in the bank that, you can move on from it, but as I've gotten older, you just have to hit that stuff head on. Like, look, I know you're disappointed how we handle this. I'm disappointed how we handle this. We're going to get it right. Give me till, Tuesday. And reasonable people, which is who we work with, because I really don't have tolerance or the patience for unreasonable people, but reasonable people will say, I appreciate that. Look, they've all made mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes, probably sometime this afternoon, right?
Yep.
I can't, but I hate, I would hate, I don't like to disappoint people.
And that's what I love about this show. There are people out there listening that think, just like you said, the straight line to success. Hey, the guy across the street's got it made. He never does anything wrong. He's got the ticest cars. He's got it easy. He's got it good. We're all just human, and we're doing the very best we can. And I know you're right. Our customers, even at Spire, we talk about no sugarcoating. Like, I'd rather bring you an answer to something bad than just polish up the already good. Right. I think that's where the real value is. One more question about the past, if you don't mind, Mark. I want to stick there a little bit longer. Your team that you had built came with you.
Yeah.
Why did they? So here you are. It went wrong, naive, got a big bill, trying to go out on his own. Why did they come with you? And what were the challenges to make sure that you kept that team intact?
Well, there's a lot of questions in that. First and foremost, they quickly saw how I was being wronged and how, kind of the lines of demarcation that they would, like me, would want nothing to do with people that would go to battle with people that would do that to their own brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, they could have gone anywhere at that point in time. And, I just had very open conversation, how much I appreciated them, if they ever felt that I've ever, not been honest with them. I really wanted just to know. I actually said, I need to know that when we walk out this building that we're on the same team, because I'm on your team, right? And I felt good about that. I felt very humbled, very embarrassed at the time, but I was very, I still feel very, very fortunate. People like Nikki and Dave, my wife, who works at our, they kind of know the type of person you are. They kind of know, they respected your talents, whereas I felt like the other crew resented my talents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you see that a lot in professional service firms, where people that are good communicators, people that make relationship building and rainmaking kind of look easy, and others that can't do it, well, and they're supposedly the smart ones, right? And the smart ones are very quick to say, well, he's just a salesman, or she's just got the gift of gab. And, that's so insulting to someone like me, because, the amount of reading that I do, and, credentialing, and the amount of knowledge that I have, but that's just, less talented people saying that guy's, I'm more talented than him, but he makes it look easy. Right?
Sure.
Well, that's what talented people do, right? That's what Tom Brady and Tiger Woods do.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that I'm nearly as talented as them, but I look at them and go, I could never do that. You know?
Yep.
So, you see that that's just not unique to my business. You see it in law firms, accounting firms.
Sure.
Probably in your business, some people are just very naturally at ease, and others have to work at it. So
it sounds to me
I
like
think that when it was all said and done, they to this day say, man, you're so talented, and I'm like, okay, well, that was the other thing I learned when I was younger, is you just assume that everyone's as talented as you are, right?
Yeah.
In certain areas, like, well, why can't you bring in $300,000 in new business a year? And they're like, I haven't brought in $300,000 business in the last 30 years, let alone one.
Yeah.
But you'd think that, in my 30s, late 30s, you just assume that everyone that you were in the swamp hole with has the same skill set that you do, because that's the only perspective that and you find out very quickly that that's not the case.
That's why, Mark, I finally told my boss, I'm the worst manager. Just don't let me manage people, because I assume that everyone's out there just taking care of their business on their own. I got this, and I'll stay up. I'll get up as early as I need to and go to bed as late as I need to get it done. And so I don't need to manage people, because everyone's just like me.
Yeah,
that's not true. And I failed quickly as far as that. I just trust people to do it. It sounds like to me, Mark, congratulations. You've built a team, I think, of people that share your vision and passion, and said, if I'm going to work somewhere or for someone, it's going to be for someone just like me. And I think your team, I haven't met them, but I bet you there are a lot of people that just share your care and empathy for your customers and desire to grow because of it. Does that sound right?
It's not about the money. It's really, politics aside, one of the things I enjoyed about Biden when he took over the White House was he said, if I ever see you disrespecting anybody or talking down to somebody here, I will fire you on the spot. Well,
right.
That sounds pretty abrasive, but you just can't have an environment where, you're one-upping people. But yeah, I would think the amount of care that Nikki, Dave, my wife, has, the amount of the distaste they would have for dissatisfied clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really comes through. But I'm 100% like you, right? I certainly am surrounding myself with people with different professional skills, but in entrepreneurial cultures, I don't think that you can have, in small business like mine or like yours, if you have to babysit the 6 or 8 people on your team and manage them, that's not going to work.
No.
Right. You got to find people, like, they can be completely different, but they have to be just as responsible and just as, responsive, right? That you are. So,
yeah. And so it sounds like, Mark, you've got it all figured out, easy sailing from here. Now, I know that's not the case. What's the next hurdle, set of challenges that Legacy Business Advisors needs to hurdle and get across with some grit coming up?
I'm just talking to a woman who does some copywriting for me. I mean, one of the things is, what is the new normal going to be like? I mean, here we are basically a year from we started this kind of COVID environment, COVID lifestyle. And
Yep.
I don't really see it changing, hopefully with the vaccine, maybe in 6 months. But I think business will be forever changed, whether it's in some businesses will be forever damaged, right? Travel and entertainment, maybe, but maybe the business hotel goer, maybe that business is maybe not going. But so I think it's going to be, you got, technologies coming into our industry, but at the end of the day, relationships count for a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had a team meeting. We have a team meeting, 11 o'clock in the morning. We usually have it on Monday, but as I said, I was just out of town. So we had it today at Tuesday, but and there's some panic in the room about political environment and the stock market last week. And, I said, well, just, if you don't like change, just hang on a second because it'll change again. And, things are never as bad as they appear. Right. But I believe that if you continue to work hard, continue to treat people well, continue to be responsible, and to your point earlier, if your kids continue to want to come home, which ours do, fortunately for us, I've got 4 children.
Yep.
And, doggone it, what's that? People like me, right? I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, that's, you can only control what you can control, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it sounds a lot like principle to me. You just you show up and you do things the right way. And you're a testament to that, Mark. And I thank you for sharing the story because you started off with principle and testament and guts, and you didn't waver when things got rough and people tried to take advantage of that, and you stuck to that, and people followed you, and they, along with you, built something again based on principle and rock. And sounds like you keep doing that. So well done.
You asked earlier what we our retirement plan did. Our retirement plan business is 300% bigger than it was 8 years ago.
See,
I mean, so that's. Sometimes when I look at that, I'm going, wow, through it all. But what's that saying in life and in business? Life's a cinch by the inch and hard by the yard, right? If you try to look out 10 years or 5 years, but you can only control, we're going to get off this call here at 3:30 and we both have things on our to-do list that we need to get done.
Yep. I call that win the day.
Yeah. Just
that's all we can do, right?
Win the morning, win the hour, right?
The minute.
Who knows? So. But no, this has been great, and happy to join you, Brian. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and hopefully those of you that listen to this, if there's any way that you would like to reach out to me, I'm at you can find me on LinkedIn, Mark Dorman, Dorman, in Medina. You can email me at mdorman, Dorman, at DLA. That's Dorman Legacy Advisors team.com. And I'm really good on my phone, so feel free to call me at 330-416-9271. So you can shoot me a text, call, and be happy to just chat with you.
And folks, feel free, and I encourage you to do so. If you're interested in some of the things that Mark does, or even some of his struggles that he's had, I'm sure he'll help share some of with insight, because you've, Mark, been nothing but kind and gracious and welcoming to me since I reached out to you. And I thank you very much for that, and for being a guest today on Dash of Grit.
Yep, perfect. Great.
Real quick, before you leave, I want to give a quick commercial, quick plug for my employer, which is Spire. And Mark and I, we just talked with you about doing things right and not sugarcoating things. And that's the kind of company Spire is. If you're looking for a marketing organization to help level your team up, we're the kind of company that will come in, look for issues and problems and struggles and grit, and show you those, and show you ways to improve those. Anyone can tell you about what's going on. That's great. We're going to look for some trouble and try to help you overcome that. So that's Spire Advertising. My name is Brian. You can find me at Brian at spiread.com. That's Brian with a Y. Thank you again to Mark Dorman for being a guest from Legacy Business Advisors on A Dash of Grit. You can catch us every week. We have our old episodes right here. You can research those. And until then, like we just said, Mark, go win the day.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
This is A Dash of Grit, Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things.